And for years and years, I thought about how I struggled in that class, and at the end of it, I earned an F. I had never failed anything in my life in academically. Teacher pulled me aside last day of school and said, I think you should take this class again next year. And that was back before we had Aries and you could, see your grade like immediately. So report cards came home, this lady gave me a C. And I was like, years went by and I didn't understand, and I said, what happened in 7th grade? Man, 3 days before Christmas, DJ, who I told you about a minute ago, he was killed that same year, right? 2 months later, we lived in Compton, and it was the first time that we had lived in a home of our own. We were renting, but first time in my life I'd ever had my own room. 3 months into living there, I'm at my grandparents' house, but my mom told it to me like this. She said, if there's a knock on the door on Sunday, law enforcement. They said, you are unlawfully occupying this space. She said, I pay rent every month. We were paying rent to somebody who didn't own the home. House had foreclosed, evicted immediately, homeless in seconds. Man, my heart was broken, right? That was 7th grade. And we went from living there to living with a stranger, thankfully, because that stranger took us in and we were been struggling at a different level. But I thought about that maybe 5-10 years ago. After all these years, and I thought, I think this teacher could sense something wasn't right. Gave me a second chance, But for me, if I had mind-filtered and thought of myself as a failure because I didn't live in the whole context of that 7th grade, I don't know that I would ever play basketball. I don't know that I would have been somebody who would have been successful in high school with grades and all that stuff. This one is always funny to me, disqualification of the positive. Things happen that are positive and you just say, and I always say that's when your mom tells you that you're handsome. No, it doesn't count, right? Because maybe I understand that some of you guys, maybe a different animal, but for me, I'm like, I'm trying to holler at these girls. My mom said, it's just them. They don't know what they're missing. But you know how that you mind filter, right? If you disqualify the positive, you're like, your mom doesn't get to tell you that you handsome, man. You're looking for that to come from the people outside of your home, right? So I'll stop with the lecturing and all, because there's a lot to talk about. But I will say that actually I'll just open it up, and just for some conversation and kind of just. I realize some of you might be cycling out. Maybe you have class today, and that's really don't feel like you can't get up and leave if you need to, but. What are some thoughts you have as we've talked this morning? I've talked a little bit. Questions, comments, anything? Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've also been observing life in a different way. Being 20, I'm not 17, I'm not 18. Sorry, I'm 21 now, right? So I'm seeing things in a different light. One thing that I'm kind of appreciative of is how my dad has been in my life. My mom put him on child support and everything, but even though we were in different states, he still pushed to be in my life to be supportive. Being a father, it seems like you want to have these kinds of skills down pat so you can transfer them to your son or your daughter, right? You don't want them to have a negative aspect of life, because then, like you said, they would be less likely to take on challenges and prove to themselves that they're worthy of accomplishing whatever goals they want to set. Do you have any kids?
I do.
What are some things that you make sure that you're on top of so they can observe, or so they can pull from their life in a more grand scheme? Of course, you might brush your teeth and tie your shoes. But what are some of those deeper things that you make sure that you're on top of?
Well, I'll start generally by saying, and this is the focus really of the book. The whole title of the book is Bloods, Crips, and Starships: How I Learned to Lead Self in a Black and White Country. And one of the things I try to model for my kids, I have 3 stepdaughters, and I have a biological son. And for me, I don't want them to think that they can control everything. I think sometimes that's what we think of adults. Adults, when we're kids, adults are like gods. And it doesn't matter if they are struggling with life, struggling with addictions, or struggling with anything. That's your parental figure. You love them. So what I try to do is make sure that they understand that I am a human. I bleed like they do. I have emotions like they do. But there are some things that if I am specific and I'm humble, that I can always apologize for something I've done wrong to you. That's in my control. That's something that's hard for a lot of people to do, to make amends, right? If I've done you wrong, if I can own that with a kid. I mean, how many times as a child did an adult apologize to you? Is that something you remember being regular? Nah. And so one of the things I try to model is like, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not always wrong. And sometimes it's not about being wrong with my kids. Sometimes I say, there's a way you see things and there's a way I see things. I'm doing what I know to do to the best of my ability, but I admit this may not be the only way to do this. But for now, this is how we're gonna play, right? But no one had those kind of conversations. I don't remember them being regular. So I try to model that. That's one of the first things. It's like, you can lead yourself. You do have control of certain things. You don't have control of everything. But the other thing that I try to emphasize is presence. And this might be even larger than the first one. Presence is everything. And presence is not just being in the same place as your kids. For me, am I paying attention? Because it took me a while to really feel Roblox the way he does, Like, I just, in Minecraft, I just couldn't, I grew up playing different types of games. And when I was a kid, we didn't have first-person games, But I realized he was interested to a degree that it was his free time, that's what he wanted to do. So I put him in a coding class, and I said, rather than just play Minecraft, let's go to a coding class where you can learn how they make the game, and then you can make adjustments to it. So Minecraft's like that. It's highly interactive, and they can actually become more construction-oriented. And I wanted him to use, I was like, okay, I see your Minecraft, and I'm gonna raise you a creative aspect. And I tried to be all in that way, because when I was a kid, I played clarinet. My mom wasn't really into clarinet. And I would have loved for her to really engage my music interest in a way where she said, okay, explain to me what a key signature is. You say you can't blow through the mouthpiece unless your embouchure is right. What's a ligature? You know what I mean? Like, I would have loved it just be, or I'd be outside. I took martial arts because my mom put me in it, but it was really good for my confidence and my mentality. And she never asked about it. And my mom's great. My mom's a great mom. But I just think it wasn't kind of the pattern of her generation to do that. So presence is big. My mom was great. And my grandparents, they had this, I think, big picture of what they wanted me to be, and they supported me. But those are the two big ones, is what do you control? Have you identified? I challenge my kids in that way. And then my presence, whether they thank me for it or not, it's my job as a father to be there. And those are two big ones. I think the third one really is that this is one they probably don't like. My stepdaughters, I have two stepdaughters who are teens, and probably the same way I approach teens in educational space, I say kindness it's never too soon to be kind to somebody. In other words, a lot of times people dismiss and they'll say, oh, they're just going through a phase, they're teens. You never have a right to be mean to anybody. And one of the things I always say from the classroom perspective, I'll look at 36 teenagers sometimes and I'll say, if this were a fight, the teacher wouldn't stand a chance. I was like, if it was me, I don't stand a chance, but 5 of you gonna get it. I say, 36 of y'all, I lose, but 5 of y'all gonna wish you hadn't started this. On the way out, I'm gonna be an absolute animal. But I say that because I think it's universal for me to assume that you're not against me. And I think that's one of the things that I get nervous about with people, is always assuming that somebody is an op. There's so much language about that. We're so fixated on our ops. And I'm like, half of us, like, this is the trippiest thing to me, is how many ops have your phone number. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, man, I was talking to this. Why are you talking to your op, dude? Like, it's weird. We never talked to our enemies growing up. I didn't call my enemy on the phone and say, hey, man, let me holler at you. And I don't appreciate the way it wasn't a thing. So I know that's generational, but one of the things I teach my kids, you know, those are probably the big three. So it's how much control do you have over certain pieces, so that they can learn how to navigate the things they know. I try to be present. I attend things no matter what. And then this notion of kindness is not assuming that there's a need to be defensive. There may be a need for that, but you know, maybe we're not so focused on always how people are against me. Because it's easy, it's just low-hanging fruit. I think as a black man, that's easy for me. Because I understand in this country what a lot of things that are against me structurally. But the domination of that in my mindscape is poisonous for me. Just for me, I'll just speak for me, and it's tired. I found I was just literally fatiguing, getting up every morning always thinking about who was against me, right? So I had to figure out a hack. And my hack has been really leaning into self-leadership and I guess as we would call it, kind of staying on my square. And my objective really is to do things like this, right? Is to be as, I guess, to dispense as much as I can from my own journey. And this is what I invite people my age to do. I'm 48 years old. And I'm just really interested, my chief interest is in understanding my map. And then if it's a race and I have a baton in it, I want the stick to be the right, you know. So that's a good question. Sorry, I took a long time to answer.
Thank you.
Those just, oh yeah.
My question is, how was it going to Washington to Brother Gonzalez? How was that experience?